Russia built a wall of radars, missiles, and jammers and dared Ukraine to fly. Ukraine answered with software, not Hollywood hacking. Mission files, threat libraries, and pod logic rewritten at combat tempo so that an F-16 rolling down a dark runway can hear the battlefield before the battlefield ever sees it. That is the quiet story behind Ukraine's F-16s, not just airframes arriving, but the code inside them learning Russia's spectrum in real time. The F-16s Ukraine is receiving are proven Vipers, largely MLU standard jets from European inventories, not the very latest Block 70 off the line. But they arrived with a different kind of upgrade path, electronic warfare reprogramming tailored for Russia's dense, mobile, and deceptive air defense environment. That work, according to official U.S. Air Force reporting about the 68th Electronic Warfare Squadron, was a sprint under pressure, understanding a partner nation EW management architecture, ingesting allied threat data, and pushing out missionized software so pilots could survive first contact. Ukraine isn't just inheriting jets, it's inheriting a maintenance problem measured in hours per flight hour and part scarcity. The United States and European donors answered with sustainment, cannibalized non-flyable F-16s for spares, contracted depot support, manuals, and processes tuned to Ukraine's usage profile. The quiet victory here is practical. Jets that can be kept airworthy while mission files are kept current. Russian missiles strike air bases, not ideas. Ukraine disperses, hides, and keeps moving. Mobile planning vans, weapons prep trucks, and hardened workflows let crews plan, arm, and turn F-16s away from predictable fixed sites. That's not just about avoiding craters. It's about creating update points where EW mission data can be loaded, verified, and pushed to the line without advertising where the jets sleep. Every radar ping, uplink burst, and seeker sweep represents a piece of terrain. Russia works that terrain hard. They use frequency-hopping search radars, multi-band acquisition systems, data-linked SAM batteries, and airborne fighters hunting with long-range radar missiles. If you fly normally through that space, you present a silhouette. If you use coherent electronic warfare, sensors, warning receivers, counters, and smart decoys all working together, you become invisible until you decide otherwise. The system that Ukraine's F-16s use for survivability does not destroy threats. It quickly chooses which tool to use. A chirp in one band could be a search radar yawning. Just ignore it. A rapidly rising continuous wave tone that matches a known missile's terminal seeker means you need to react immediately. Using the exact counter that the library suggests will confuse that missile. The key is not the equipment, it's the library and the logic behind it. Threat libraries age quickly in war, as both sides change signatures and tactics. The 68th EWS exists to combat that decay. They convert allied data into updated maps of the spectrum. For Ukraine, the change wasn't just speed. It was working together within a partner nation framework so that the library Ukraine uses is exactly what it needs. A reprogrammed jet alters cockpit behavior. When the RWR tone alerts to a known Russian emitter, pilots see a symbol that has real meaning. When the dispensers fire, they are not just for show, they are sequenced for that threat's movement. When the jammer activates, it's timed precisely according to the mission file, which indicates this is the right moment for energy to provide you time. Over dozens of sorties, trust builds into tactics. Air superiority isn't something Ukraine can keep constantly on. However, it can achieve brief, localized moments where electronic warfare, terrain, decoys, and timing align. An F-16 doesn't need 12 hours of clear sky to make an impact. It only requires 12 minutes over the right area to launch a storm shadow or push enemy aircraft away from a defended city. Ukraine's air defenders, including Patriot, NASAMS, Iris-T, and older launchers, already punish careless Russian planes. Adding F-16s with the right systems creates a layered defense. Fighters manage approach paths while ground batteries pose a threat if the enemy divides forces. The outcome is not a dramatic dogfight. It leads Russian aircrews to choose caution, longer distances, and fewer engagement attempts. A well-prepared mission file enhances the effectiveness of decoys. If a Russian battery changes modes during engagement, a carefully designed electronic warfare logic can adapt the response. It can deploy flares to defeat infrared guidance, use chaff to disrupt a switch back to active radar, or activate a jammer at the right moment to reduce tracking confidence. Deception doesn't guarantee success, but it increases a pilot's options at critical moments, affecting whether a surface-to-air missile wastes its energy. Consider attrition rates simply and without drama. Headlines may focus on the first F-16 downed. Meanwhile, militaries track performance through generated sorties, avoided missiles, and correctly identified threats. Ukraine's decision to primarily use F-16s for air defense and standoff support, emphasizing guardian roles instead of deep strikes, suits the size of the fleet, the experience of its pilots, and its electronic warfare reprogramming advantages. Russia deploys electronic warfare assets that aim to disrupt seekers and data links, but using too much power can backfire. It can confuse your own sensors or reveal your position. A skilled Ukrainian F-16 crew, using reliable identification tables, can use noisy enemies as guides. If that's the jammer we think it is, the battery controlling it is usually around here. Understanding the spectrum turns Russian power into a tool for Ukrainian navigation. People are curious about whether Ukraine's F-16s can detect Russia's Su-57 better after reprogramming. The reality is that stealth involves trade-offs, not invisibility. A well-equipped library, combined with off-board information, may help identify strange signals or track support emissions and data link patterns. That's not a complete solution, but it does help shift from fearing the unknown to planning for what you know. Retired US F-16s that have been stripped for Ukraine's spare parts, along with contracted support from manufacturers, helps turn donations into long-lasting capability. None of this is dramatic, but it all affects whether the jets that arrived in spring can still take off in winter. Ground crews trained to check loads, ensure pod health, and verify mission data checksums before taxiing aren't just performing maintenance. They're protecting the jet. An incorrect file or a faulty pylon can remove the advantages the pilot relies on. The best electronic warfare often comes from a watchful crew chief who notices a subtle warning. Russia strikes wherever it can. Ukraine's practice of relocating jets, using decoys, and avoiding predictable patterns means the enemy gets snapshots, not consistent behaviors. Each day that you disrupt their targeting cycle is another day their pre-planned strike misses what you truly care about. The jet with the latest library and the crew that knows how to use it. A dozen F-16s can protect a few corridors. Several dozen, flown by pilots who have spent months building muscle memory on the reprogramming schedule, start to influence regional behavior. Cruise missile operators stand further back, glide bombers conduct fewer sorties, and bomber paths get pushed away from the shortest, cheapest routes. As crews become more comfortable with survival tactics, they can take on more ambitious missions. These can include escorting incoming standoff weapons, luring enemy fighters into surface-to-air missile traps, or running timed spectrum screens that briefly clear a route for other aircraft. None of this means taking unnecessary risks. It requires good timing, data, and jets with compatible systems. If Denmark's, Norway's, and the Netherlands' basic setups align with Ukraine's reprogramming schedule, every allied F-16 community will learn faster. A radar mode quirk found near Odessa can strengthen a Belgian jet at home within a week. This is the quiet strength of having a common airframe with shared electronic warfare systems. Lessons spread quickly. Electronic warfare doesn't create pilots overnight. Ukraine needs to develop instructors, foster a culture of flying that relies heavily on instruments and procedures, and protect its few experienced leaders. An F-16 squadron is a cohesive unit. Losing the wrong members impacts the team more than losing an aircraft. Russia will try to weaken the advantage of the library. They might employ tactics like spoofing, going passive, switching seekers, or simply overwhelming the skies with enough low-cost threats that making the right counter-choice becomes hard under pressure. The solution is to maintain a steady rhythm. Collect, process, reprogram, and implement. Disrupt that rhythm, and yesterday's map turns into tomorrow's danger. The more specific the public discussions about particular pods, emissions, and software behaviors, the easier it becomes for the enemy to develop counters. Ukraine and its allies will deliberately keep the most intriguing details dull. Audiences should expect ambiguity, as vagueness can serve as a tactical advantage. Its shape interacts with the air. Its engine challenges gravity. Its software competes with the enemy's software. Ukraine's F-16s are joining the war not as miracle workers, but as debaters who finally understand the situation. Each updated mission file is a clear statement. No, not today, said to a missile that almost had the right angle. Not here, said to a radar that nearly found a lock. Now, set at a moment when a path opened and a strike package needed 10 minutes of extra time. War on this scale combines logistics and learning. The F-16 brings both: a supply chain large enough to keep the jets operational and a software system quick enough to keep them effective. That combination does not ensure air superiority. It provides time for crews to develop, for weapons to integrate, for Russia to be pushed into more expensive, riskier choices in the air. Time, in this war, is what Ukraine needs the most. Expect Russia to change, at times cleverly, at times carelessly, always with determination. Expect the coalition to keep the pipeline active. And expect the most important change to be cultural. When Ukrainian pilots and crews view reprogramming not as an event, but as essential, the F-16 stops being new and starts being part of the routine. That's when it performs at its best. If you want more in-depth explanations that clarify the myths and methods of modern air warfare, like how threat libraries are created, how decoys effectively disrupt locks, and how dispersed bases function, hit like so this briefing reaches more viewers. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next situation report.